At 5:16 local time, the ocean appears almost motionless. The carrier moves on at a steady pace. The flight deck is quiet. Routine watch changes are halfway through the morning cycle. Beneath the surface, there is nothing to see. No wake, no disturbance, only water. Then the sound changes. In the sonar room, a low-frequency return slips into the headset feed. Thin, controlled, and unmistakably wrong. Not marine life, not background noise. It holds its tone longer than it should, clean and deliberate. The operator says nothing at first. He adjusts the gain. The signal remains. Another sweep confirms it. The contact is deep, moving, and accelerating. On the display, a faint line begins to stretch forward. Its vector is steady, its heading exact. This is not drift, this is not debris. Whatever it is, it has chosen its course. At 5:17, the console light shifts from green to amber. The change moves through the ship faster than any alarm could. In the Combat Information Center, conversations stop in mid-sentence. A watch officer straightens. A hand pauses above a keyboard. No one needs to raise their voice. New subsurface contact. The call is flat and controlled, stripped of emotion. The carrier does not alter course. Not yet. Multiple sensors begin layering in. Passive arrays refine the bearing. Timestamps tighten. The contact speed increases again, smooth and consistent. No random movement, no hesitation. This is powered motion. On the bridge, the captain watches the repeater without a word. The picture is already clear. The contact is closing from depth, holding a constant intercept line. Still distant, still outside any defensive trigger point. But intention does not require proximity. At 5:18, the ship's internal posture changes, not to full alert, not even close, just enough that every critical station is now manned by someone who is no longer thinking about breakfast. Down on the hangar deck, a maintenance crew pauses as the lighting subtly shifts in tone. Above them, the flight deck remains still. Aircraft are parked, chained, silent. From the outside, nothing seems different. Inside, everything has changed. The contact holds depth, then begins a shallow climb. Not a rush, not a sprint. A measured ascent designed to preserve guidance and energy. Whoever launched it did not want raw speed. They wanted certainty. Classify track. The order comes. The system works through the signatures, removes false positives, narrows the possibilities. This is no exercise. At 5:20, the classification locks. No announcement follows. The label on the screen says enough. The room takes it in without visible reaction. There is no shock here, only confirmation. A torpedo, not lost, not wandering, not searching blindly. It is following a clean solution straight toward the carrier's projected path. Distance still gives them choices. Time still exists. But the margin is no longer theoretical. On an escort ship off the starboard quarter, a similar silence has settled in. Data links flicker with fresh inputs. The formation tightens almost imperceptibly. Steel adjusts around the carrier like a reflex. No weapons are launched, no countermeasures yet. This phase is about watching. At 5:21, the torpedo increases speed again. That is the moment the room truly changes. Not emotionally, not visibly, procedurally. The track is no longer assessed as a possibility. It is now active, committed. The math has collapsed into a single line that points only one way, toward the carrier. A junior officer glances at the range readout, then looks away. He already understands. The torpedo is still minutes out, but it has crossed the point where its intent can no longer be denied. The captain speaks at last. One sentence. Calm, precise, no repetition. Systems acknowledge, screens shift. Somewhere deep inside the ship, mechanisms unlock and wait without moving. They do nothing until ordered. They never move early. At 5:22, the ocean above the torpedo remains undisturbed. Passengers on a civilian vessel miles away would see nothing but open water. No plume, no trace, no sign that steel is racing beneath the surface toward one of the most protected ships on Earth. Inside the carrier, no one is watching the sea. All eyes are fixed on the line. Because by now, the water has already been broken, and whatever is coming has no intention of stopping on its own. At 5:23, the numbers begin to close. Range falls in clean, predictable intervals. Bearing holds steady. Depth remains disciplined, just below the layer where surface noise would interfere. Whoever programmed the weapon understood the water. This is not a desperate shot. In the Combat Information Center, the track is no longer treated as a contact. It is treated as a system. Inputs stack one after another in quiet succession. Speed, depth, thermal gradient, bearing drift. Each update sharpens the picture and strips away doubt. The torpedo is not searching, it is navigating. The carrier continues on course by design. Any sudden maneuver now would create more problems than it would solve. Evasion comes later, if it comes at all. Right now, clarity matters more than movement. On the display, a thin projection line extends forward from the torpedo's icon. It intersects the carrier's predicted path not at the bow, not at the stern, but squarely amidships. That detail draws no reaction. It simply confirms intent. At 5:24, the ship's data links brighten again. Escort vessels feed in confirming tracks. Different sensors, different angles, same result. No divergence, no confusion. The attack chain is intact. The weapon's guidance remains stable. Inside the sonar room, the operator adjusts filters, isolating the signature from the clutter. The sound is unmistakable now, a mechanical pulse, steady and efficient, moving through the water with purpose, not the frantic tone of a seeker hunting in uncertainty. This one already knows where it believes it is going. The time to intercept drops below 4 minutes. No one says it out loud. The carrier's defensive architecture moves into its next layer. Not weapons. Not yet. Algorithms recalculate intercept windows. Countermeasure envelopes are drawn, erased, and drawn again. Options are examined, not chosen. Every move carries consequences. At 5:25, the torpedo shifts depth by a few meters. A small change, almost invisible, but important. The adjustment aligns it with a cleaner acoustic channel, cutting interference from surface turbulence. That refinement says more than any flag or radio call ever could. This is not a warning shot. This is a firing solution. On the bridge, the captain watches the updated track without expression. He has seen patterns like this before, in simulations, training scenarios, cold exercises in controlled waters. But this one is real. The carrier's escorts tighten their spacing again, just enough to bring overlapping coverage into play. No ship breaks formation. No one rushes ahead. This is not a chase. It is a net. At 5:26, the torpedo's speed stabilizes. That matters more than acceleration. Constant velocity means the guidance has settled. The weapon is no longer correcting aggressively. It is confident. Inside the CIC, a watch officer notes the change and says nothing. The data is speaking clearly enough on its own. The range continues to fall. 3 minutes. Somewhere below decks, a sailor secures a loose tool without being told. Another tightens a strap. These are not commands. They are habits built over years. Above, the flight deck remains quiet. Aircraft stay chained down. There will be no launch into this moment. Air power does not solve an underwater problem this late in the sequence. At 5:27, the torpedo climbs again, shallow and controlled. It is entering position for terminal guidance. This is where the attack chain becomes hardest to break. Passive tracking gives way to the threat of active homing. The weapon is now close enough to switch on its own sensors at any moment. If it does, reaction time collapses. The carrier's systems prepare for that possibility in silence. No alarms, no klaxons. The ship does not advertise fear. The time to intercept drops below 2 minutes. On the tactical display, the solution cone narrows to a thin wedge. There are fewer places left to hide, fewer options that do not demand commitment. This is where hesitation destroys ships. At 5:28, the torpedo holds its line. No erratic movement, no surge, no last-second sprint, just steady closure. The weapon has entered the window where physics begins to take over. Even if guidance failed now, momentum alone would carry it dangerously close. That is the reality. The crew works inside it. The captain gives another short order. Again, no explanation. Everyone who needs to understand already does. Systems acknowledge, countermeasures begin to arm but remain dormant. They will not be used unless they must be, because the next move, whatever it is, will decide whether this remains a silent contest of sensors and discipline or becomes something far louder. And the clock is no longer measured in minutes. At 5:29, the math stops being theoretical. Range drops through the final buffer where time still forgives hesitation. From here on, every second removes an option. The track remains clean, bearing unchanged, depth precise. The torpedo is no longer simply approaching the carrier's path. It is converging on it. Inside the Combat Information Center, the display updates again. The projected intercept tightens into a narrow corridor that leaves no room for interpretation. The weapons line does not wander. It does not probe. It does not test alternatives. It commits. The time to intercept falls below 90 seconds. No one calls it out. The number needs no voice. It sits there red and absolute, a countdown without sound. On the bridge, the captain shifts his weight slightly, eyes still on the repeater. He does not ask for recommendations. Those have already been processed, ranked, rejected, or held by the system and the people running it. This is no longer a discussion. The torpedo makes a subtle correction, barely noticeable to an untrained eye. A fractional change in depth, a slight realignment of heading. The move is surgical, not desperate. It is compensating for a variable the carrier introduced earlier without changing course. That matters. It means the weapon is not guessing. At 5:30, the escorts reach their final positions. Overlapping fields align, distances compress. Steel settles into a configuration built to absorb shock without multiplying chaos. No ship accelerates, no ship turns sharply. They hold, the carrier remains steady. A sudden maneuver now could expose vulnerable geometry, create acoustic spikes, or break coordination. Movement is a tool, but only when used at the right second. That second has not arrived yet. In the sonar room, the operator hears the tone sharpen. The sound is no longer merely present, it is insistent. The mechanical pulse carries a confidence that leaves no doubt about intent. This is not a seeker feeling its way through the dark. This is a guided system writing a solution it trusts. The time to intercept crosses 60 seconds. This is the line. Beyond it, physics dominates. Reaction windows collapse. Defensive layers overlap so tightly that one mistake can cascade instantly into the next. The captain speaks again. One sentence. Not loud, not dramatic. It does not mention weapons or targets. It names a condition, a posture, a transition from observation to preparation. Across the ship, acknowledgements ripple in silence. Systems transition, safeties release, doors that never move without an order unlock and wait. Somewhere deep below, a mechanism hums to life. Not firing, not emitting, simply ready. At 5:31, the torpedo climbs into its terminal band. This is where many weapons reveal themselves. A burst of active sonar, a sudden sprint, a final effort to lock before countermeasures bloom. This one does neither. It stays quiet. That restraint is more dangerous than speed. The carrier's sensors strain for any hint of emission. None comes. The torpedo is trusting inertial guidance, stored data, and its confidence in where the carrier will be when it arrives. The time to intercept drops under 40 seconds. There is no longer any advantage in waiting, but there is still risk in acting too soon. The captain looks at the clock once and only once. Then his eyes return to the track. He knows exactly how much time remains without needing to check again. He gives the order. It is short, precise, irreversible. This is the final moment when control still exists on this side of the engagement. At 5:32, the ship responds. Not violently, not visibly. No plume breaks the surface. No weapon leaves the ship. No explosion tears through the water. Instead, the carrier attacks the problem at its source: guidance. The response is measured, layered, and deliberately restrained. The goal is not destruction. The goal is confusion. To break the certainty the torpedo depends on. To introduce doubt where, seconds earlier, there had been none. The systems activate in sequence, not all at once. Each step is calibrated to reveal as little as possible. This is not a display of force, it is a test of discipline. The torpedo reacts. For the first time since detection, its line wavers. In the operator's headset, the sound shifts. Subtle but unmistakable. The steady mechanical rhythm stutters, recovers, then stutters again. The weapon is still moving fast, still dangerous, but it is no longer perfectly sure. The time to intercept continues to fall, 30 seconds. The torpedo tries to correct. It adjusts depth again, sharper this time. The move is no longer elegant, it is compensating. A sign that the solution it trusted is beginning to slip. The carrier does not turn. No panic maneuver, no abrupt change. Because this phase is not about outrunning steel underwater, it is about forcing a machine to doubt what it thinks it knows. And in the next few seconds, that doubt will decide everything. At 5:33, certainty begins to crack. Not all at once, not dramatically, just enough to matter. In the sonar room, the tone shifts again, this time unevenly. The clean, confident rhythm that defined the contact for the past several minutes starts to fragment. It is still there, still fast, still dangerous, but no longer sure of itself. The countermeasures continue, layered, restrained, carefully managed. Nothing explosive, nothing violent, just enough interference to force the torpedo to question the picture it has been following since launch. The weapon responds by climbing, a natural reaction, a move toward clearer water, toward better returns, but the ocean above is no longer honest. What the torpedo expects to find and what its sensors are actually receiving no longer match. On the display, the line bends, only a few degrees at first, a correction made under the assumption that the problem is temporary. The torpedo is still trying to save its original solution. The carrier does not move. At 5:34, the torpedo adjusts again, this time more aggressively. Speed fluctuates, depth oscillates. These are not signs of collapse. They are signs of a system working harder than planned. The escorts hold formation. No ship breaks pattern. No one moves too soon. This phase is fragile. One bad input, one overcorrection, and the weapon could relock cleanly. Inside the Combat Information Center, a watch officer notes the change in behavior. He does not smile. He does not relax. He knows better. This is when weapons become unpredictable. The Torpedo's guidance tries to reassert control. It sweeps wider, sampling the acoustic environment in a final attempt to rebuild confidence. The effort costs it efficiency. Every sweep drains energy. Every correction sacrifices momentum. The time to intercept stretches, not by much, but enough to matter. At 5:35, the sound in the sonar operator's headset fractures again. The once solid pulse now carries gaps, micro-pauses, tiny hesitations, moments where the weapon's guidance is recalculating against a picture that no longer matches stored expectations. The Torpedo is still moving toward the carrier, but it is no longer moving towards certainty. The carrier's systems remain steady. No escalation, no extra layer added. The response stays disciplined, designed to let the Torpedo defeat itself. This is not about overpowering the weapon. It is about outlasting its confidence. At 5:36, the Torpedo makes its largest correction yet. The track veers noticeably to port, then back again. The movement is no longer smooth. It is reactive. The weapon is chasing a solution that keeps shifting just beyond reach. In the CIC, the projected intercept point slides off the carrier's path. Not far, not safe yet, but no longer fatal. The captain watches the display without expression. He says nothing. He offers no congratulations. He knows the danger is not over until the contact is no longer a contact. The Torpedo's speed drops. Not a shutdown, not a failure. A deliberate reduction as the system reallocates power to sensing and processing. The choice costs it range, costs it time, costs it options. At 5:37, the sound begins to fade. Not disappear, fade. The mechanical pulse weakens, stretched thin by repeated corrections and wasted energy. The weapon is still alive, but its world has narrowed. The ocean it believed it understood has turned deceptive. The Torpedo descends slightly, then levels off. Another attempt to stabilize. It fails. The guidance loop collapses inward. Without a clean picture, the system defaults to search behavior. The confident intercept line dissolves into a widening arc. On the screen, the track drifts away from the carrier's projected path. The time to intercept is no longer counting down. It is counting up. At 5:38, the contact brakes lock completely. The sound drops below the threshold where it can be tracked with confidence. The last return flickers, then vanishes into background noise and thermal layers. The room remains quiet. No cheering, no relief, no visible release of tension. They wait. Seconds pass. No reacquisition. Another sweep confirms it. The Torpedo has lost the carrier. Whether it burns through its energy, shuts itself down, or sinks into inert silence no longer matters. Its threat is over. Only then does the captain give the order to ease posture. Systems step down in sequence, retracing the same path they followed on the way up. Safeties re-engage. Mechanisms return to standby. Above, the ocean is still calm. To anyone watching from a distance, nothing has changed. But below the surface, the most dangerous moment of the morning has already passed. And it ended not with an explosion, but with a machine realizing it no longer knew where to look. At 5:39, the ocean returns to silence. Not the absence of sound, ships are never truly silent, but the specific tension that had compressed every decision into seconds is gone. Displays settle. The last unusual returns dissolve into background clutter and thermal layers. The water keeps its secrets again. No one celebrates. Inside the Combat Information Center, posture eases one step at a time. Not all the way. Not yet. The transition is deliberate, controlled, as though the ship itself wants proof before letting go. The carrier holds course. That matters. A victory that forces a course change is still a concession. This one does not. The ship continues exactly where it was headed, at exactly the speed it intended to maintain. The escorts remain close. Their spacing does not change. No one peels away. No one rushes ahead. The formation stays intact until certainty replaces assumption. At 5:41, confirmation arrives from multiple sensors. No reacquisition. No residual guidance signals. No secondary contacts. The Torpedo is gone. Whether it exhausted its energy, shut down, or drifted harmlessly into the deep may never be known publicly. It does not need to be. The outcome that matters has already been recorded. The captain gives a short order, not to strike back, not to pursue, to document. Across the ship, systems begin pulling data, timestamps, sensor logs, waveform captures, environmental conditions. Every second of the encounter is preserved, encrypted, and stored. This is not about headlines, not about statements. This is about memory. Below decks, analysts are already reconstructing the launch profile. Bearing is backtracked, speed curves are mapped, guidance behavior is compared against known templates. The picture sharpens quickly. The source is no mystery. It never was. Above the waterline, the flight deck resumes its rhythm. Chains are checked. Crews return to maintenance. To an outside observer, the ship looks unchanged, just another carrier cutting through open ocean. Inside, the understanding has shifted. At 5:47, airborne surveillance assets quietly reposition. No announcement accompanies the move. None is needed. Attention turns outward, not in anger, but in calculation. Under the surface, the launch platform, wherever it sits, has already been located. Not targeted, located. That distinction matters, because what just happened was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Proof that restraint is not weakness. Proof that a modern carrier does not have to fire in order to dominate the engagement space. The opposing side learns that lesson without a single explosion. They now know something they did not know before. They know their shot was detected. They know it was tracked. They know it failed. And they know why. At 6:02, the ship's internal posture returns fully to normal. Watches rotate. Coffee mugs reappear. Conversations resume in low voices. The crew moves on because that is what professionals do when danger has passed. But the encounter does not really end here. The data gathered in those minutes will travel far beyond this morning, into simulations, into training syllabi, into future doctrine. The torpedo that failed today will shape the response to the next one, launched somewhere else by someone watching closely. Because the message delivered was not emotional, it was mathematical. A message written in probabilities, not rhetoric. You can fire, we will see it. You can aim, we will break the chain. And if you choose to escalate further, you will do so knowing exactly how visible you are. The carrier continues forward, unchanged in heading, unchanged in purpose. Behind it, the water closes. Above it, the sky remains empty. And somewhere beneath the surface, a weapon built to destroy the most powerful ship afloat disappears without ever touching it. No shots fired, no damage taken, just a quiet recalibration of power. And a reminder that in modern naval warfare, the strongest message is often delivered in silence.